Eagle County, home to the Eagle River, Beaver Creek, and Vail, a true cornerstone of Colorado's ski mecca. There's just one problem: road dependency. The solution to this problem? Rail. But why is rail the solution? More accurately, why is rail the next solution? This is a holistic look at the valley, its traffic patterns, layout, and its current transit systems. So let's go over the solutions that have already been implemented in Eagle County. Eagle County possesses a solid bus network with multiple public and private operators. The towns of Eagle County tend to have great walkability. There's an amazing comprehensive trail network connecting these towns with quality bike paths separated from cars. There's a fair bit of paid parking that is designed to deter the use of personal vehicles. The population is active and eco-conscious. And there are a lot of roundabouts. Seriously, a lot of roundabouts. Yet there is still the same problem: an overdependency upon roads and rubber tire transit, with the inherent energy, personnel, and space inefficiency that comes with this mode of transit. Your buses are only as good as I-70 and the state of your roadwork. We need to diversify our transit portfolio. It is time for rail to return. It is time for the Tennessee Pass to return. Chapter 1: Geography of the Valley. Why does Eagle County lend itself to transit, both bus and rail? Ski resorts and tourism aside, what makes Eagle County so special? It is the fundamental building patterns that were adopted due to the geography of the valley. In America, we often struggle with urban sprawl. Typically, our cities and towns are too spread out for a transit system to work. This is not the case in Eagle County. The towns were built along the river. Most construction was built within the bounds of the flat valley floor. This building pattern produced a linear layout that forced dense urban development. This layout is prime to take advantage of transit. Chapter 2: Goals for the Eagle Valley Rail System. There are two sets of goals for this service: primary and secondary. The primary goals of this service are to increase transit ridership by providing a better service in terms of comfort, reliability, speed, reach, and frequency. How are we going to accomplish this? First of all, we need to decouple the performance of our buses from the performance of I-70 and our highways. Eliminating the long stretches of east-west travel that buses take along the valley floor will be critical. Number 2, we need to increase the frequency of our buses by keeping them local to their respective towns, orbiting their respective stations. Less time on I-70, more time in their towns. Third, we need to increase the north-south reach of buses. By freeing up buses from long east-west trips, they can venture further away from the valley floor, accessing new ridership wells. For example, we could extend routes deeper into Gypsum and Eagle. Number 4, rail is more comfortable and reliable. Trains don't get stuck in traffic, nor road work. Trains are less affected by weather and snow events. They are more comfortable to ride in and offer amenities not seen in buses, like cafes and tables. Now let's go over the secondary goals of the Eagle Valley Rail Project. First of all, we want to promote transit-oriented development along a high-capacity linear corridor, providing workers with cheaper housing options a bit further away from the expensive parts of the valley. We're looking to reduce overall emissions produced by transit and possibly provide higher-end rail options for further economic development. I hope you can see that the goals of this rail system aren't to replace or usurp buses, but complement them and make them better. Chapter 3: Passengers over Petroleum. Let's take a minute and talk about freight trains. No one in the valley wants to see freight trains return to this line. They especially do not want to see oil trains return to this line. Those slow, long, loud, through-running freight trains will probably never return to this line due to the very same reasons that we saw this pass go out of use in the first place. Since the completion of the Moffett Tunnel, the Tennessee Pass has been non-competitive due to the underlying physics and geography of the route. The Tennessee Pass is the highest standard gauge railroad in the U.S., with an aggressive 3% grade out of Minturn. This is a very tough grade for modern multi-mile long freight trains to climb without help. That's why the Minturn Yard was the staging ground for helper locomotives to get these long freight trains up the pass in the first place. This style of railroading has fallen out of favor in the modern era, and that is why the line was shut down in 1997 and currently lies dormant. There are other routes available for freight trains that are much easier to climb, such as the Moffett Subdivision and the Overland route in Wyoming. It is not economically viable to use such a tough route when others are available with excess capacity available on those other routes. So, if we want to ensure that no future oil trains or freight trains get on this line ever again, we should fill it with passenger trains that serve our communities. Chapter 4. A New Lease on Life. This rail line, known as the Tennessee Pass Line or TPL, is owned by Union Pacific. Union Pacific got it when they merged with Southern Pacific in the 90s. UP operated this line for a few years, then gave up on it, mothballing the line. It's not abandoned, just dormant. And as we know, the Class 1s don't care for passenger service. However, there is a new player on the board. There's currently an active lessee on the TPL, Rio Grande Pacific. Rio Grande Pacific is the current holder of the lease. They have mentioned interest in spinning up a passenger service on this line, and they do have a good pedigree for it. They already operate a passenger service down in Texas, the A-Train in Denton. Chapter 5. What kind of rail? Choosing the right type of passenger rail is critical. For local service, we are not looking to set up something akin to Amtrak, the Rail Runner, or RTD. For this service, I would propose using multiple units, a heavy rail vehicle for regional service. Multiple units are quick off the line, have high capacity, and can operate with less noise than traditional heavy rail options. The noise level of these units is comparable to that of a city bus. Additionally, multiple units are available in many different variants: diesel, hybrid, hydrogen, or battery. These units are very reliable, boasting an uptime of 95% or better. Chapter 6. Stations and Service. Starting in the west, we have Gibson, followed shortly by Eagle County Airport. Eagle County Airport is probably one of the most important stations on this entire route because the bridge from Eagle County Airport to Avon is critical for hitting our ridership targets. This is a heavily trafficked portion, and there's already fleets and fleets of rental cars at Eagle County Airport. We're trying to find an alternative way to get from Eagle County Airport to Avon in a timely manner. So, if we build a pedestrian bridge across Highway 6, we can then connect the rail line with a shuttle that operates within the fence of the airport, getting people directly to the terminal. Next we have Eagle, followed by Edwards, on into Avon, which again is one of the most critical stations on this entire route. Not only do we have the Avon Gondola connection right here, we also have the Avon Transit Center, which we are hoping to make worth its name. Now the gondola only works in winter, for now. Eventually it would be nice to have a Telluride style gondola that runs continuously all the way up to Beaver Creek. Beaver Creek, which is notorious for getting to due to its limited parking and all that paid parking. Lots of public and private bus operators are right here in the transit center, so this will be a great transit hub that, like I said before, will truly be worthy of its name. After Avon, we have Minturn. The goal of Minturn is to increase accessibility. There's only one way in and one way out, so if we can find a way to reduce that through traffic, maybe Minturn can take back its main street. Finally, before we head up the pass all the way, we have Redcliffe. Now, Redcliffe is me leading on to something else I'll get into later. I do intend to have this service go all the way up to Leadville, so Redcliffe is along the way, but Redcliffe's bus situation isn't the best. There are only 2 buses a day that go into town, with one additional bus up on Highway 24 where you have to walk 30 minutes up and out of the canyon to get to it. And then after that, you've got a twisty drive on 24 all the way down to the valley. Not great. So eventually, if a train is heading to Leadville anyway, might as well get better access to the outside world. Chapter 7. Travel Times. The map you see before you is a time-scale representation of the entire system. This is not distance, this is time. As you can see, a train would take 37 minutes to get from Avon to Eagle County Airport with a 1-minute wait at each station. This is compared to the 43 minutes that it would take on a bus. Remember that Core Transit, in the middle of the day, only operates every other bus compared to the ones that they do operate in the morning and the evening. So this 37 minutes would be consistent throughout the day instead of just during peak times. Chapter 8, Existing Grade Separation. This right here is just another win. There are only 3 major grade level crossings on this entire route. Given that this entire route is already in the ground and in relatively good shape, the fact that there's only 3 crossings you have to worry about for the entirety of Eagle County is pretty incredible. So we got really lucky with this one. If you're in Eagle County, a grade separation is when you see those bridges where either you go over the railroad or the railroad goes over you. Many people would love to have the grade separation that we already have on a rail line we don't use. Chapter 9, Cost. I know, the brass tacks. Well, I'm not an industry expert. I have seen a lot of this line and photographed it and looked around it. It seems like it's in pretty good shape, and from the people who I know who are in the rail industry, they also agree it's in pretty good shape. So if you're looking for a number for this, it's not $1 billion, it's not $10 billion, might not even be $500 million. I can tell you right now that probably to get service from Gypsum to Minturn would probably cost less than Floyd Hill. Floyd Hill, by the way, that current I-70 project, is $700 million for 7 miles, $100 million a mile, and it might save 5 minutes in travel time. This entire project could probably be done for less than Floyd Hill. The largest cost for passenger rail projects is typically buying out the right-of-way. We already have the right-of-way. We already have rails in the ground in good shape. It would not take much to refurbish this rail line. Essentially what we're looking at is signals, stations, rolling stock, and maintenance facilities. That's it. This is an easy win. Chapter 10, Vail. Vail is the final piece in this transit puzzle. If Vail had had a rail connection from the beginning, passenger trains would have never stopped running in 1967. From its inception, Vail was envisioned as a Swiss-style ski resort. The charm, the architecture, the walkable, dense design. The one thing Vail lacks is a proper rail connection to fulfill its Swiss inspiration. Squeezing a rail line up I-70 to Vail from Dowds Junction, that's beyond the scope of this video. It could be done, but for that conversation to be taken seriously, there needs to be a popular and useful Valley Rail service first. For now, buses will handle the final mile into Vail. Chapter 11, Ski Train 3.0. Avon and Beaver Creek are set up to be the 3rd ski area in Colorado that will get a rail connection to the lifts, essentially with the gondola. We already have the Winter Park Express, which is one of the few Amtrak routes that actually makes a profit because of how popular it is. Soon we'll have Mountain Rail to Steamboat. Then we can have Avon, possibly followed by Vail. We know the ski traffic nightmares, the cost of parking, and the dangers of winter travel. Providing rail connections to these ski areas is a proven model that will prove to be popular and useful for reducing congestion created by ski areas and providing a safer option to get to the mountains you love. Chapter 12, Future Connections. This video has been a detailed look at the viability of Eagle County specifically for a rail network. It is intended to have this service go from Glenwood Springs all the way up to Leadville. The final goal will be to reactivate the entire line with different levels of service based upon need. For something like Eagle County, we are going to have a very fast and frequent local service because we have the population density and influx of tourists to justify it. Elsewhere on the line, we're looking at ways how to help commuters reduce their expenses for travel by not having to use their personal vehicles to get to work. And remember, this is a gorgeous line, so I'm sure the Rocky Mountaineer will be paying a few visits. Chapter 12.5, X Factor. When discussing passenger rail in America, many immediately cite cost. Even if a project could be done relatively cheaply by leveraging existing rail assets, many will still complain about the ongoing expense of running and maintaining the service. These are typically the same people who don't know how highways are funded. Here on the TPL, we have an X factor that we can use: beauty, raw mountain beauty. If this line were to come back, I would propose 2 tiers of service: commuter and luxury excursion. Commuter is the base level service that focuses on frequency and utility. It'll get you to work, it'll get you to the mountain, it'll get you to the airport. It's a service. Tier 2, however, is a product. Luxury rail travel on one of the most beautiful lines in the state, if not the world. Call it a dinner train, call it a tourist train. As long as it doesn't delay our commuter service, this higher tier could directly help fund the commuter service. The money is on the table. The Rocky Mountaineer has proven this to be a popular option. Having something like this could really help keep the lights on and put the financials of this project in a better light. I think it's worth looking into. Chapter 13, Closing Thoughts. The Eagle County Rail Project has the potential to be one of the best rail services in the state. This is a very different service that we haven't seen elsewhere, using these multiple units for fast, local, frequent passenger service on a very dense, rural, urban mountain corridor. This is very much so a Swiss or Euro-style designed system that's meant to service what we would traditionally think as an area that doesn't need rail, but when your population doubles or triples overnight due to tourism, sometimes your local infrastructure needs a little bit of a leg up. Some people might think that this rail line is unnecessary. Some people might think it would be nice, but just be too expensive. I would encourage local lawmakers to take an honest look at it to see what it would take to get a practical, useful service off the ground for as little cost as possible between Gypsum and Minturn. If we can get that spinning up and we can get that popular and being used, then we can open up our options. As stated in this video, this rail service is not meant to usurp or replace the core bus network or the other private operators of buses in the Eagle County Valley. We are trying to complement them and make those buses be better. We're trying to decrease headways, increase frequency, increase transit reliability, increase transit comfort, and find a way to build a system that can inspire the rest of the state to see what rail in the mountains could do. The problems we are trying to address here are that mountain roads are dangerous for people who are not aware, they are difficult to maintain because of the beating they take due to the elements they have to endure, and that we're trying to allow our communities to grow in a sustainable way without turning our towns into massive parking lots. You can also throw in the fact that not everyone can afford an EV. We're trying to cut down emissions, and people are trying to spend less just to go to work. So having a transit network that can both expand its coverage and improve its frequency removes those barriers of entry, or really excuses to not use transit. If you know the bus is going to get there in 15 minutes instead of 30 when you miss one, you are more likely to use that service. By having a rail line do the heavy lifting of the majority of the east-west traffic, then our buses are allowed to not only become more frequent, but also stray further off the beaten path and access ridership wells that have not yet been tapped. So that's what I've got for Eagle County. Thank you for watching this video. If you would like more information on this project, I would suggest that you check out our website, the Western Rail Coalition, where you can get more figures on this project and stay up to date with our progress.